I've been getting questions as to how the Molex plugs I'm making work and what is required to use them. This video will cover all of that. In order to use these plugs successfully, you need to have the confidence to do a bit of crimping work or preserve and reuse the original pin connections in your harness. It's not rocket science or particularly difficult. Success is greatly increased by using the correct crimping tool, a good pair of wire strippers, and a pair of fine work pliers. The plugs are in three parts: the main body, which holds the female pins, a rubber gasket, and a cap. The holes have been carefully sized to have a tight fit with the pins. The bottom part is tapered in to grab hold of the pin at the end. If any hole is too tight, you can ream them out a bit by taking a pin with pliers and pushing it in and out. I'm supplying 22 AWG female pins with the plugs, and they need to be crimped with an SN58B crimping tool. There is a link to the set that I use in the description. So I will show how I crimp a new pin onto a wire. So first strip the end of the wire bare to expose about 5 mm of wire. The pin has two sets of wings that grip the exposed part of the wire and the insulating sleeve. It's important to get the pin lined up correctly in the crimpers so that the pin and wire are not crushed and fatigued. You put the pin in the crimpers and ratchet it so that it's almost closed but not yet compressing the pin. Insert the wire so the exposed wire will be gripped by the first set of wings. Line it up with your wire and compress. Once you've taken it out, make sure that both the exposed wire and the insulated wire have been gripped by the pins and the crimp is solid. Look for signs of damage on the pins that might lead to failure. Make sure that the sleeve is gripped tightly, as this will determine the strength and quality of your crimp. This is an easy job with the right tools and a nightmare when trying to make do. Once you've crimped all of the pins, you can then insert them into the plugs as per your wiring schematic. For this example, we will look at the hall sensor wires with the LR motor. I find the best way is to get them all lined up and gently push them into place. From here, use the fine work pliers to push the pins into final position. It should not be hard work to push the pins in, but some resistance should be felt in order to hold the pins in place. Check your pin positions at this point. Should you have made a mistake, you can push out the pins in question using something like an Allen key here. Once you're happy with the pins in place, make sure that the gasket is inserted and screw on the cap. If this is the final assembly of the plugs, then you can use a small smear of silicone as an extra seal around where the wire enters the plug. So that is how they work. The next part of the video will discuss some things to consider if you're going to look to replace the plugs on an existing harness. The first thing, especially if you do not have the wiring schematic, is to take lots of photos of what wire goes where. That way, if you do have to recrimp or make a mistake, you have something to refer to. The next thing is to be patient. It's a fiddly job. It's not for all. If you're not confident with this, then perhaps find someone who is more comfortable or practice a bit first. The pins are held in the Molex plugs with tiny sprung teeth. You have to lift this tooth up in order to pull back the pins. Molex sell an expensive tool for this. I used a flat-headed screwdriver which actually broke the teeth, but I was not trying to save the plugs. You will then need to cut away the rubber seal and also cut away the plastic channels from around the wiring. It's a tricky job and you need to take your time to avoid damaging the wires. Once you've removed the old plugs, you insert the pins in the new connectors as per previous instructions. If you have any questions, let me know. Links to the tools I used as well as the plugs themselves are in the description. Cheers.